So let me introduce you to the second speaker, Aleesha Khan. So she's a grad student in psychology, and she's an advocate for mental health, women's rights, and systemic justice. So the topic that she's going to be talking about is how the impact of the mental illness has impacted, the stigma of mental illness has impacted her. So let's give a round of applause to Aleesha.
Okay, so I'm Aleesha. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So I have a mental health account, and I talk about mental illness a lot because I have them, which is really fun some of the time. So I have generalized anxiety disorder, I have clinical depression, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and that sounds like, but I live a pretty normal life. And as I've gone into adulthood now, because I've graduated and I'm working, I've started realizing from a psychological aspect how the different systems around us kind of perpetuate the stigma of mental illness and how that's affected me. And if it's affecting me, then it must really be affecting other people, so it's something I want to talk about. Can we just take a deep breath together so I can calm down? Yes. Inhale together. And exhale. Okay, cool, thanks. So I've started realizing that there are 3 levels of authority, and I'm just going to go through them and talk about how mental health stigma is related to them. So our first level of authority is really our parents. We grow up and they tell us what's green, what's blue, how to tie our laces, why the sky gets dark at night, and so their word is basically law. So when I first started showing symptoms and I'm saying, hey, my heart's beating really fast, or hey, why am I fainting on the way to school? And people are telling me, and by people I mean my parents, who I love dearly, but at the time they were telling me, oh, you're being over dramatic, or you're being overly sensitive. To me that was okay, that's what it is. That's what I've washed over my experience. So at the age of 14, on the way to school, every single morning I was just dropping in the train. So imagine this is the train is as crowded, just I'm dropping and I'm on the ground and you're all just staring at me like, holy. Then I wake up in the train to all these people around me, and very often, like old ladies massaging my knees and stuff. And sometimes I end up in the hospital, sometimes not. And they didn't have an answer. And then eventually they were like, maybe you have anxiety. And that was the first time I kind of understood, oh, okay, I'm not just like dropping, I have anxiety. I'm actually having panic attacks on the train, my heart's beating fast, and that's why I'm fainting. And so I started realizing that through the different systems, and when I say systems, I mean your education system, the medical system, even travel systems, all the different systems that kind of create our society. When they view mental illness in this one-dimensional way, they don't know how to support you. And I started realizing that and experiencing it. And only recently I'm realizing how much I've experienced it because I have a different lens. So I want to talk about the second type of authority. The second type of authority is when you get a little older and you start being told, hey, these are your teachers, they will tell you what to do. Or hey, this is your principal, this is the police, they know what's right and what's wrong, they know the law. This is the government tells you what to do. I'm not going to go into it, but you know what I mean. That's how it works. And so then when I'm in university, I am still having a lot of symptoms. And when I say stigma, one really important thing that I want to point out is that mental illness is not mental illness. It is a whole body disorder. I have physical symptoms way more than mental. I have a lower immune system because of my illnesses. So when I was in class, what would happen is I would have a burning ear sensation. So just imagine someone lit a match but in your ear. And so I'm sitting there, and anytime I started not understanding what was going on, and the reason is because I have anxiety, I have trouble concentrating, but they don't know that, so I just think it's just me not being able to focus. My ears would start burning. And then I would be like, oh my gosh, my ears are on fire, that's really strange. And then my heart's racing, and then I'm like, oh, my ears are on fire and I'm not breathing. And so I would regularly have panic attacks. And so I went and I said, listen, I have a diagnosed mental health condition, can I just get a letter from my therapist? Just letting you know, like maybe up to 10% of my classes, I might have to not be there. And what I was told by the system in places, we don't know how to account for that. If a GP can't see you, which they can't because it's a mental illness, every time you have a panic attack, you then have to go straight to your therapist, see your therapist for a whole session, and then get a letter. So that's costing me $335 every time I have a panic attack and can't go to a class. So I just had to have really low attendance. I've had low attendance my whole life, and it just looks like I kind of suck, but I'm just not able to attend classes. And that's kind of because their viewpoint was, if you're unwell, take a semester off, get better, come back. Because of the stigma that, this is just you being dramatic or, being sensitive, having an issue, deal with it, come back better, then it's fine. But my illnesses will, hopefully in time get even better because I've made a lot of, progress, but they will always be with me. I will always need extra help. I'm sitting in a chair because I can't stand, because I would get more anxious. That's even a small bit, but that's the extra bit of help. Everything I do, I need just a bit of adaptation. And I've started realizing that there are so many other people because of my account, and there's some people who follow me. They all have different things like this. They all have strange symptoms. I have followers who are nauseous all the time, and because of that need an extra help, need to call a venue and say, hey, can you make sure you have plastic bags? Hey, can you, whatever it is. And when that stigma continues where people only see it as mental, they don't understand why you need the extra help. So then I'm going to go into the third authority, which is the self, which is something I only realized as I got older. And this is actually like a psychological theory that I'm stealing and telling you, the 3 levels of authority. But I started realizing that the self is an authority and that I am allowed to give myself permission to ask for what I want, to demand what I want. And so I'll talk about a different type of system. When I go on planes, I need a lot of extra help because I've had experiences before where, men have made me uncomfortable or done certain things. And then plus I have anxiety, and turbulence makes me think I'm about to die. So it's a lot of fun traveling, and I travel a lot. So I started just basically realizing that I had become so comfortable with discomfort, I never asked for help. And I was just getting used to it. Anytime I was uncomfortable, or someone was too close, or there was turbulence, I would ride out a panic attack with the turbulence, and I'd be like, okay, it's fine. And I didn't think for a second, hey, maybe I can ask for some help. Only when it got to the point where I actually, realized that I trust myself enough to trust my own judgment, sometimes more than these other levels of authority, that I contacted and I said, listen, I'm getting on your flight, because I fly to Dubai a lot. It's also one of my favorite countries. But I said, I'm getting on your flight. All I need is for a stewardess to just come to me once or twice and say, listen, there's turbulence, but it's cool, you're fine. That's literally all I would need. Because what I'm doing on a plane is I'm sitting there and say, you're the stewardess. I'm just like quietly watching you, like, does she seem okay? Is there a glint in her eye? Like, does she know something? I don't know. And so I'm building up this fake, and they were saying, well, as long as you're seated, we can't do anything extra for you. As long as you can stay seated, you don't have a disability. And I said, if I have a panic attack, I won't be seated. I will be on the ground. And then it's your problem for the next 4 hours. It's, it's in your best benefit to practice prevention rather than, and what are they going to do? Once it's happening, it's happening. So
I wasn't on the flight this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
So it gets better. So then I call multiple times, I have conversations, I explain my background, I explain this is how my mental illness works. It's not, because they said to me on the phone, anxiety is common, just calm down, you'll be fine. And so I'm like, I'm not going to calm down, because it's not in my control. I'm pretty calm right now, but I can't control that my heart's racing. It's not really in my power. And so eventually they were really good about it. After they understood me, I had a stewardess assigned to me, and I felt like a child, obviously, but I had a stewardess assigned to me each flight, and they made sure I wasn't seated next to any men because that's a trigger for me. So they were very, caring, but that's because I had to call, and I had to stand up for myself, I had to advocate for myself, and I realized how difficult it is. So what I try to do is, I try to impart to other people how they can then advocate for themselves, even when all these authority figures are saying, no, you're wrong, So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say. Yeah, that's it.